Thanks for tuning in to Unbreakable with Chris Chamasiros. I talk about politics, sports, and entertainment to keep you well rounded. What's going on around the world? If you don't like hearing the truth, definitely don't tune into this channel. So let's get started today. So, Zohran Mamdani, the communist candidate for mayor of New York City, the Islamic extremist who celebrated 9/11, he founded a college group who blamed America for the 9/11 attacks. Before I get started today, I'm reading from the New York Post. And you know why I tell you I'm reading from the New York Post? Because when I make videos on Zohran Mamdani or all other liberals telling the truth about their behavior, I always use a liberal news source. So then when the Democratic zombies and maniacs and losers are in the comment section saying that I'm reading propaganda from conservative newspapers, well, this is where I'm reading it from. The New York Post, an ultra liberal, ultra woke newspaper. Do I like this newspaper? No, I don't. But you know what I love more? I just love to mock Democrats and liberals because you all are absolutely insane and need to be locked up at mental institutions. And it just proves my point. You know why? Do you remember how many people died in 9/11? And this piece of garbage is running for mayor of New York City and he's getting that many votes, fine. He's only won the primary so far, but that doesn't matter. How would you like if that was one of your family members jumping off a building because they didn't want to get burned to death? And people are applauding him and going up to him in the street, cheering for him. I mean, if you're Jewish or a white person that votes for this piece of garbage, you absolutely need to be locked up in a mental institution because he absolutely hates your guts. And who do we see congratulating him in the streets? It's always white liberal women, right? The rich white liberal women who have nothing to do but spend their husband's money and celebrate pieces of garbage like this, who are terrorists, who celebrate terrorism, who hate everything that's American. But let's jump into the article. College group co-founded by Mamdani hosted speaker who blamed US for 9/11 attacks. They call it the Fanatic Club in the Post. The Fanatic Club in the New York Post. Ultra woke newspaper. Mayor candidate Zohran Mamdani was the co-founder of Students for Justice in Palestine at Bowdoin College, a group that engaged in radical activities, including inviting Professor Abu Khalil to speak. Abu Khalil once said the U.S. brought the 9/11 attacks on itself and that America had inflicted many 9/11s on others. But New Yorkers want to vote for this piece of garbage. This piece of garbage, this terrorist, he shouldn't have one vote. If you were sane, he shouldn't get one vote. Mayor frontrunner Zohran Mamdani co-founded a college club that invited a radical speaker who called Israel a bigger terror threat than Hamas. That's interesting. And boasted he was greatly influenced by a Palestinian leader nicknamed the Godfather of Middle Eastern terrorism. Wonderful human beings. You know, am I really surprised that this would be the Democratic candidate in 2025? Absolutely not. You know, nothing's better than when you see gay people for Palestine and they're waving the Palestinian flag and then waving the pride flag next to it. You know what you all need to do to get a reality check? Jump on a plane, bring your pride flag to Palestine and wave it around and jump around half naked and see how that goes for you and let me know how it goes. The professor Assad Abu Khalil later claimed that the US brought the September 11th attacks on itself and accused the government of inflicting many 9/11s on the world. In November 2013, Students for Justice in Palestine at Bowdoin College, which Mamdani helped launch, welcomed the controversial Lebanese American academic to the main campus. Abdul Khalil was invited to speak to SJP about trends in the Middle East in the age of uprising while Mamdani was still a student. Years after the invite, he hadn't tamped down his inflammatory rhetoric. We have to remember that the US basically was hit on 9/11 by forces that were reactionary and fanatic and were raised and armed and sponsored by America and its allies in the Middle East, Abu Khalil said in 2021. People forget that 9/11 is a repercussion of the Cold War when the U.S. made its bed and clearly with the religious fanatics of the Muslim world, he also said. This is a time where socialists around the world in Chile, in the Arab world, and everywhere were under attack by the U.S. reactionary forces and support. The questionable invite was one of several inflammatory actions the students group has taken in the past decade after Mamdani helped launch the brand of the activist organization. The Democratic Socialist, who won big in the crowded Democratic primary for Big Apple mayor, has faced a wave of criticism for his association with leaders accused of anti Semitism and past comments. AbuKhalil's most eyebrow raising 9/11 comments came after he was invited to Bowdoin, but he made several shocking statements leading up to the event. In 2006, AbuKhalil claimed Israel committed more destructive terrorism than Hamas, and if Hamas practiced versions of indiscriminate and aimless violence, which I personally reject on principle, it should be pointed out that Israel terrorism in scale and in magnitude by far exceeds that of Hamas, but nobody has noticed here in the US, he wrote in the blog post. AbuKhalil said he was honored to have known George Habash, the leader of the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, which has been designated a terror organization by the US since 1997. He was a great Palestine leader, he said in 2012 to an audience in Edinburgh, Scotland. AbuKhalil commended Habash as a figure who had tremendous influence on the academic. Of course, if you look at newspapers, he would have been seen as a terrorist, he said. A Time magazine story in 1998 about his death assailed Habash as the godfather of Middle East terrorism. I mean, it's obvious that Zohran Mamdani supports, not only does he support terrorism, he will encourage terrorism and he would help terrorists commit their acts of terrorism against the United States of America. If you want to be in denial about it, that's fine. I choose to live in reality. And Zohran Mamdani is telling you point blank, I am a terrorist, I support terrorism, and I support any terrorist acts against the United States of America. Only in 2025 could a piece of garbage like this actually have a chance to win the mayor's race in New York City. It's absolutely sickening. Then President Trump, he had something to say about if Mamdani wins. President Trump threatened Tuesday to use federal power to seize control of New York City if communist Zohran Mamdani is elected mayor. If a communist gets elected to run New York, it can never be the same. Trump told the Post during a cabinet meeting, but we have tremendous power at the White House to run places. If a communist gets elected to run New York, it can never be the same, Trump told the Post during a cabinet meeting. But we have tremendous power at the White House to run places where we have to. New York City will run properly. I'm going to bring New York back. I love New York, the president added. We're going to straighten out New York. We're going to have to straighten it out from Washington. President Trump also went on to say, we're going to do something for New York. I can't tell you what yet, but we're going to make New York great again. Also, we're going to make it great again with this country, he said. Thank God for President Trump. Thank God we have a real leader. And all the Democrats and the liberals and even Zohran Mamdani, oh, you see, President Trump, he's not about freedom. And, they try to take the Constitution and twist it into something. Our Constitution in America is not for communism. It's for, we are a republic. People like to call it a democracy. We are not going to live under communism. We are not going to live under Sharia law. We are not going to live under Islamic law. The UK made the mistake. Germany made the mistake. London made the mistake. It's not going to happen in America, and it's definitely not going to happen under President Trump's watch. We should all be thanking God for President Trump that we have real leadership in the White House who's not going to put up with a terrorist or his garbage. With that being said, thanks for tuning in to Unbreakable with Chris Chamasiros.